when World War II, with the bombing of Pearl Harbor occurred, once again the steps of our Berkeley Chapel became a focus. We had just come out of our Sunday service, and there was a constant buzzing and air of consternation, and finally we understood that Japanese had bombed Pearl Harbor. That Monday morning, I can still remember our senior class president, Masami Oishi, sitting in the back of our homeroom with tears streaming down his face. That demeanor didn't mean a lot to me at that point because I didn't understand what was coming, but shortly, as a Japanese, he did. We were all called into our auditorium to listen to President Roosevelt give his speech about a day that would live in infamy. Not too long after that, we became involved in the preparations to defend the West Coast. We were issued identification bracelets. We were given instructions on air raids. We had periodic drills where we had to get under our desks. We could hear air raid drills, and sometimes when those would occur, we would hear airplanes, and that was kind of unsettling. I have to say, at 14, I didn't understand the full impact of what war meant. At some point in our experience and immaturity, it was sort of exciting because we weren't immediately involved. And so, particularly in our ward area, the Berkeley ward became the location of special activities for servicemen coming from Treasure Island. So at 14, to have good-looking servicemen come on Sunday, of course, didn't necessarily reflect the horrors of war, just some of the excitement. But the tragedy soon came into our lives as I saw one of my very dear friends, Jane Hayashi, come to say goodbye because her family was going to be sent to a relocation center. I never saw her again, and because Berkeley had a very heavy Japanese population, it impacted so many of our good friends, and I realized that what to us was exciting was major trauma for these loyal American citizens, and I learned early on how unfair that was. One of the advantages of growing up in Berkeley in the Bay Area was having the privilege of having so many friends from different backgrounds. I've always treasured that heritage. The wartime was strange in many ways, small sacrifices compared to what other people had to endure. Rationing sugar was almost unobtainable. Nylon stockings, no. Nylon was used for parachutes. Oddly enough, we were encouraged to pick up hitchhikers to save gas. So most of these things were surface. Sadly enough, I learned firsthand after the war some of the tragedy. And I have to say, my older brother was in the Marines. He served in the South Pacific, and because he was a participant in some of the most difficult areas, some of the difficult fighting with the Japanese, when he came home, he carried a prejudice against Japanese that he could not erase. One of my very vivid memories was going to a friend's house whose brother had just returned after the service from being in the group of servicemen that were raided Buchenwald, that horrible scene of the Holocaust. And she said her brother George would frequently be heard in a closet door closed, sobbing because of what he had seen in that concentration camp. So while at times, as a young teenager, the war seemed in some ways exciting, we learned the tragic consequences of an awful conflict. After the war, it was interesting. There was a song, When Lights Go On All Over the World. Our home on Crackmont was located in the Berkeley Hills, and it was located with a wonderful view of the Bay Area. During the war, we had to put blackout curtains, and my father was a block captain and had to every night go around our block to be sure that the curtains were drawn so that no lights were seen. And so during the war, the wonderful view we had of Bay Area lights was darkened. And so when the war came to a close, that song, When the Lights Go On Again All Over the World, had a much different feeling, because I can remember after the war how amazed and wonderful it was to see those lights on the view that we had not been able to see for so many years go on. You asked about Dave and his experiences in the war. He always felt grateful that he never was involved in hand-to-hand combat, but he would not talk about his experiences, although they were not certainly as traumatic as most. But he had tremendous respect for those who paid the ultimate price and valued their service, as did I. How important is our country to me when you know our land is choice above all other lands? Of course it means a great deal to me, because it is a sign of the restoration of the gospel and the testimony and meaning of the Savior and the gospel is the most important thing in my life. But I am so grateful that we have freedom in a much different context, not only freedom in terms of politics, but in terms of religion and its most important aspects. I want to encourage all of my grandchildren to take seriously their responsibility as a good, informed citizen, to be involved in the community, to learn about candidates and be sure that they are men and women of integrity, to be involved in the community. Perhaps that's one reason that I enjoyed my service with community efforts such as Trauma Intervention Program and the Marjorie Mason Center. After we were married, I did work as a caseworker in the Fresno County Welfare Department. I saw firsthand the results of poverty and lack of education, and it helped me treasure both of them, but also helped me treasure the blessings that I've had for a wonderful education and a grounding in gospel principles that give meaning to life. And I hope that that will be the case for all of my grandchildren and great-grandchildren. I know that I am not perfect. Dave was not perfect. But if ever there was a marriage in heaven, ours was. And I wish all of my family the same joy.